Welcome back to the HONA Podcast.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to the HONA Podcast with Mike and Charles.
Yeah, well, you cut me off, so we're not off to a great start.
For those of you who want to know what she's on about, we've had a bit of media training or podcast training because apparently I have a habit of really trying to get my word across and waiting for Charlotte to finish and then jumping in or even cutting her off. So I've had a bit of practice, and today's the first podcast after the practice, so we'll see if it
And
it
the
works.
first line he's gone in. But yeah, it's passion at the end of the day. It's passion. And we all like passionate.
Yes, it's passion. See the way?
Pause.
So today's episode is one Charlotte really wanted to talk about. So why don't you introduce her?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this one because it's kind of like my two babies of HONA. So like my very, very first project, I would say, when I came on to HONA full time was the manual tools, and then that evolved into e-files. So I am going to talk today about the e-file era and whether manual tools are dead.
Yeah, we're going to explore like the rise of e-files because they really have taken over. Do you think more nail techs are e-file trained than ever before?
Oh yeah, 100%.
So we'll explore e-files, the essential training around them, the complications with all the different types of bits, what to use, what not to use, and we'll ask this question of you and hopefully you'll give us some answers. Do you feel like e-files are the go-to tool over manual tools now? I was quite surprised when Charlotte posed me that question, so I'm interested to see where my opinion lies by the end of this conversation because I'm very much undecided. So, yeah, let's explore e-files.
So I think you mentioned it before, e-files are definitely on the rise. I am seeing more and more nail techs train in e-files and using e-files within the salons. And for me, I would say when I was back in my salon and e-files were kind of like new and up and coming, the only time I'd ever really heard of e-files was in a negative light. And it was to do with the non-standard salons. So we'll have a little chat about that and why they were sort of painted about in a bad light. Because I've always loved manual tools. Like, to me, prep is like my favourite part of the manicure process. So I could never have done my manicure without my pusher, my knife and my nippers. Am I allowed to say knife on a podcast?
Yeah. Fine. So you touched on something really interesting then. So do you feel like there was a stigma with e-files, and that stigma through companies launching e-files and launching higher education, that stigma's kind of erased? And what I mean by that is you mentioned non-standard salons because their go-to is probably, am I right in thinking, like acrylic and e-files, and that was the norm, and so there was an association with e-files and non-standard salons.
Yeah, so there was that association, but also along with damage as well. So you kind of had that sort of linking process, I suppose. So yeah, it was a lot of acrylic, a lot of like fast service, which is obviously why they use the e-files, but not in the right way. And I think because so many people did come away with damage to their natural nails, they were then scared about it. Not just clients, but like regular salons, like myself included. I didn't even want to entertain the thought of introducing a drill into the salon, because that's what they were known as.
And is it interesting now to see, especially on TikTok, the rise of e-files then? Because you do see majority of nail techs trained in e-file now, or wanting to be trained in e-file, because I feel like the education has risen up. And there's a lot of great companies out there. There's Lucy Pastorelli, there's Willow, there's Muse, there's Katie Barnes, HONA has an e-file. There's so many great companies with, I would say, good education that nail techs are more comfortable now in using an e-file.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that was a learning curve, not just for myself, but also for my clients. I wanted to, when I did introduce e-file, I wanted to make sure that my clients felt safe in me using it on them. So always going back to education.
Yeah.
Education, I think 100% is key. I do not agree with just buying an e-file and having a go. There is so much more to it than meets the eye. 100%.
So let's talk a bit about why it was scary then. So from a non-nail tech, even though I am qualified, guys, I'm not
Working
a
nail
working nail tech. From a non-working nail tech point of view, it is scary and dangerous. I feel like a lot of nail techs are scared of damaging the nail because of the power of a nail drill. They're scared of catching a piece of skin and causing blood and stuff like that. So explain to me, as somebody who was hesitant to use e-files in their salon 10 years, 15 years ago, to your slow education, because you can an e-file educator as well.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
So explain why that was hesitancy in the industry and why that's kind of changed now then.
I think, as I mentioned, it kind of came from the stigma surrounding it in the beginning. And I was doing a lot of builder gel. I was also doing a lot of extensions within my salon. And when it comes to things like removal, like full removal process, to do this with like manual files was a ball ache. So I thought, right, do you know what? I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to do my research and I'm going to train an e-file. And I did a lot of research. I did a lot of training around it. And I still have done, even whilst I've been working here, more e-file training. Because I think there's so many bits to learn. There's so many, new techniques as well. Always invest in your education. And it just didn't seem scary to me anymore, as long as you know what you're doing. So whether you're using a carbide bit in comparison to a diamond drill bit, for example, what surfaces of the nail they can be used on, what surfaces they can't, what angles, what speeds, what, direction of use, things like that. To me, once I'd done my training, it just didn't seem scary at all. And it actually benefited me so much more. But that was just me talking about like removals and things. Speed. So in comparison to whether I would replace those sort of like techniques with my manual tools, my answer would be no, because I still love my manual tools and I still feel like my manual tools do play a vital part in my prep process.
So I think that's a good time to tackle the question which we're speaking about here. Are manual tools on the decline, or are they quote unquote dead because of the rise of e-files?
I don't think so. No, I think having the e-file is a additional benefit to it. So you can still perform a perfectly good quality manicure with manual tools just by themselves. The benefit then of just introducing the e-file, you can obviously go on to techniques such as like the Russian manicure or combi manicures, things like that. And I always think with manual tools as well, going back to like prescriptive manicures, there are certain types of clients that I wouldn't use an e-file on. So say, for example, some of my like 90-year-old clients with such like delicate skin and really sort of like thin brittle nails, I would always still opt for just that manual tool option. And again, even down to somebody that maybe has like some sensory needs that doesn't like the feeling of an e-file, because sometimes if you don't invest in a good e-file, you can feel some vibration. There is a feeling to having an e-file put on your nails, so that could be another option as well. So I genuinely think that there is always still space for manual tools, 100%.
You mentioned combi tools then. Am I right in thinking a combi manicure or a combi prep is the use of both manual and e-file?
Yes.
Is that the go-to? Is that the gold standard now? Or is it a case-by-case basis, I suppose?
For me, it was always kind of like that was my standard, my go-to, unless, like I said, I was doing like my 90-year-old client for some reason and I wouldn't use an e-file. But for me, I just found, number one, the speed. of an e-file for removals drastically reduced my treatment time. So I just found that super, super beneficial, especially, like I say, if you are doing removals of builder gel or hard gel or, full coverage tips, things like that. I would then, if we're talking about my process now, I would then go back to my manual tools to do the majority of my cuticle prep, because I just think there's something so nice and so, what's the word I'm looking for?
Intimate?
No. Intimate cuticle work. No, so like
Precision?
when I was pushing the cuticle with my physical pusher, my actual manual tool pusher, I could feel that sort of push back from the client. Whereas like when you're using an e-file, you're obviously taught, absolutely no pressure. You're kind of just really, really lightly working. Whereas when I'm using my manual tools, I feel like I can feel much more, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. When you're using your manual tool, you've got the feedback because you're in full control. Whereas you have in the HONA profile, for example, you have a brushless motor.
Yeah.
So you're not in full control because the motor's moving.
Yeah.
So while there's very little movement in our profile, I understand what you mean, that you have 100% control with a cuticle pusher. So you can really, really use your little sensitivities I understand that. And so you think a combi manicure is the way forward?
Yeah, I just think, especially if you are using, like I say, a pusher or even like our etch and loop tool for like the lifting of the cuticle, I just think that will allow so much more benefit then for the e-file to work at its best. So say, for example, I was going to use like no manual tools and I was just going to use like my flame bit to push back and remove some cuticle. I don't think, in my opinion, I'm not talking for anyone else now, this is just in my opinion, that I would get as good a pushback just with my flame bit, because I would always be a little bit nervous of going too hard. And that's not to say, I don't trust myself doing it, but when you are taught an e-file, you are taught with no pressure at all. Like, let the drill bit do the work for you.
Yeah.
Whereas when you are doing it with a manual tool, you can feel that little bit of tension.
I think that's really good. It's a tailored approach for whatever type of nail tech you are. So here's a question for you. If there's going to be many people listening to this now that are going, nah, e-file all the way.
Yeah.
And there's going to be people going, absolutely not, manual tools all the way. And then you're kind of like, guys, I want to take the best of both.
Yeah.
Who's right?
Neither's right. Because, and then again, going back to prescriptive, I've said, I would only use manual tools on my 90-year-old client. There are some people out there that would only use an e-file on a 90-year-old client because they don't have to have that pushback. They can just use their tools super, super lightly. They may not want to get as much, pocket lift or like, cuticle removal off the nail plate. They might just want a standard e-file manicure or like a polish. So there are times then that you could just use an e-file. So there's kind of like no right or wrong, really. It's all back down to prescriptive manicure.
Do you feel like the rise of e-files are in correlation to the rise of hard gels?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say no, because hard gels, believe it or not, hard gels, acrylic, things like that have been around for years and years and years. And it just seemed to be like 10 years ago-ish, builder gel just was the go-to. So everyone stopped having acrylic. I think, again, it was like the association with acrylic being
Non-standard
salons, the sort of damage to nails, things like that. But then like a shift in trend as well. Like a lot of people stopped having the long nails. They wanted like to grow their own natural nails. So I think builder gel itself kind of just took over. Hard gel was always still there. Like even when I trained in college many, many years ago, I learnt acrylic, I learnt hard gel, I learnt, all different methods of nails. So they never really went away. They've just kind of come back. And And I don't know, maybe more people are using e-file now because of removal, but I wouldn't say that there's a correlation in the fact that, you know, because hard gel is out now.
I would disagree. I think hard gel has got popular because more people are e-file trained. So I think the current rise in hard gel is because more nail techs are more educated and more skilled with e-files, is that hard gel is now an available option to them. And for those who want to offer prescriptive manicures or tailor-made manicures, that is now on the table. So I feel like e-file and the great work a lot of companies in the UK have done with e-file training has helped the rise of hard gel, which is brilliant, which is really, really, really good. Do you wanna talk about a little bit about the downside of what I'm seeing with e-files? So there seems to be a bit of a clickbaity viral thing going about where it's popular to criticize other people's application. And it's worrying because it makes people hesitant to show their work. And I understand this from a place of trying to improve and stuff, but I feel like there's a nice way of doing it and then there's a not so nice way of doing it. And I feel like directly calling somebody out to gain views is an inappropriate way of doing it when you could quite offer them a DM or you could spend time showing them the right way and then just kind of saying like, oh, here's a tutorial I've done. There's just two ways of doing it, I suppose.
I completely agree with that. There is definitely a way of, you know,
Giving feedback.
Constructive criticism, I'm all for. And if you can see something that is doing, you know, a lot of damage, yes, 100% speak up or speak to that person directly. Do not just take a video and post it online just to gain views. And I just think as well, not only to gain views, but obviously to try and promote your own training, I think is...
Everyone's got their own style and technique of promoting themselves. And I don't want to say someone's wrong or right for doing what they're doing. It's just not what I feel is best for the industry. An industry that seems to get a lot of hate and slack sometimes. And we should really, really be picking each other up and improving it as a whole. And I feel like there's probably just nicer ways of giving feedback, giving constructive feedback.
Yeah, 100%. And like at the end of the day, we're not all perfect. You know, we do all, you know, make mistakes. I've held my hands up and said, you know, I do my nails constantly here for product testing. And sometimes, well, as you can see on my own hand there, for anyone that's looking, ridiculous. I will whiz off as much product as I possibly can with a carbide bit and then think, I've obviously gone too far. I'm working on myself. You know, I'm trying to get as much work done in a quickest amount of time as possible. If I was doing that on a client, obviously I wouldn't be doing that. But again, don't just go to the slacking people off. I don't like it.
No. 2025 and beyond, what are your predictions, so to speak?
More and more people using e-files within their treatments, and that's not just for removals, but that is for prep. You know, I feel like we've all seen the rise of the Russian manicure on TikTok and Instagram and things like that, and I feel more, again, it kind of started off as very much a stigma, and now that there is education behind it, I think more and more people are thinking, oh, actually there is, you know, the safe way to do it. So I think more of that, more education behind different drill bits, different ways of prep. I think that that's going to become very, very standard next year as well. I think the importance of, you know, educating your clients as well about, you know, if you are going to start introducing e-file services within your salon, educating your clients as well. Like, this is not a scary thing. You know, I love to say that it works really, really well alongside with my manicure tools, and you're going to get that far more in-depth manicure from it. I think my clients especially loved the introduction of it, and they felt like they were getting more for their money.
Oh, that's an interesting one, that they get more for their money, because I might have old hat thinking and think manual tools feel more premium, more personal.
To them, they felt like they were getting a better service. They were getting like the full MOT. Because I was still doing manual work as well, this was like a little bit of an add-on.
I think clients' expectations with nail systems are evolving. So builder gel isn't the standard no more. HONA's coined the term prescriptive manicures. There's a lot of us saying tailor-made manicures. I think the time has gone where everyone's just having builder gel, and rightly so, because everyone shouldn't be having the same style manicure. I think as clients get more educated in what's offered, such as structured overlays, such as hard gels, such as extensions, like we call them Swift tips, manual tools aren't the right tool or prep or removal for each of those, and you have to have different options to be able to offer those different services. So I think more and more clients are going to be asking for the likes of hard gel, so you should have the necessary tools to be able to offer that service. That's going to become more and more prominent.
Yeah, and that's not to say that, you can't offer hard gel as a service if you don't have e-file, but it's going to take you a hell of a lot longer when it comes to, obviously, removals, because hard gel is naturally a file-off system, so it is going to take that a little bit longer. But yeah, even down to Swift tips, I think having the e-file to etch the inner well is just so much quicker than using a manual tool.
Little things like that.
Little things.
Yeah, there's going to be an advancement in drill bit technology. There's going to be even more advancements in education. And I feel like e-file is very, very much here to stay. I don't believe it's just a popular trend right now. I feel like it's a fundamental part of a nail tech's arsenal. And if you're not e-file trained and you want to get e-file trained, there's really, really good companies in the UK that offer it. And I think it's probably one of those that the sooner you get more comfortable in using it in your day-to-day service, it will speed up your manicures, and faster manicure services means more clients mean more money, means more successful business.
Yeah, so you touched on it there. I just think let's just run through a few quick benefits of why you should choose to introduce an e-file. And that's not to say, disregard your manual tools whatsoever. But Mike mentioned there, speed, number one. 100% increased speed of treatments will get you more bums on seats. I mentioned it in the fact that my clients felt like they were getting a bit of a more premium service with it. They were getting like the full MOT because you were getting an additional bit of service. You can actually charge more as well for e-file. I personally didn't, because I included it as part of my prep, but say for example, if I used the e-file at the end of my service to do a bit of skin polishing or like buffing in my cuticle oil, things like that, it's an add-on treatment. So yes, I would charge extra for that. Again, more money in your pockets. I think repetitive strain injury, that's a huge one that kind of gets looked over. It's that constant motion of filing, and if you are using a manual file for hard gel removals or extensions, my God, it kills. It kills your wrists, it kills your elbows. It gets you a little bit just worked up. So again, having that sort of like pressure off your own body, I think is a huge benefit. Huge. The only sort of downside that I would say would be the dust.
Yes.
So it is imperative. Like, I can't stress enough how imperative it is to have a good dust collector. Absolutely fundamental. If you are getting an e-file, do not buy an e-file without getting your dust collector, because if you've got that all over you, that's an issue.
And you've probably seen it on TikTok when people empty their filters at the end of each client. You see the amount of dust that's collected, and that is just going to, it's probably going to be breathed in by the client, by yourself if you're not wearing masks. It's going to land all over your equipment, over your desk, which isn't very hygienic. It just makes the whole treatment a little bit more hygienic, cleaner, and quote-unquote safer. So, yeah, they come in hand. So we always recommend an extractor fan or a dust collector, whichever way you want to call them, with your e-file.
Yeah, 100%.
Final thoughts?
Final thoughts.
So this conversation wasn't about replacing your manual tools or your hand file with an e-file. It's more about trying to help you understand that there has been a rise in e-files and there has been a rise in different services such as hard gels. And so as a working nail tech, you should always have your ear to the ground and understand what the industry is moving towards. And it definitely is moving towards that.
100%. And like I say, I think always going back to education, why would you not want to learn something new? Just to be able to take that pressure off yourself as well. So like, going back to the speed, going back to the repetitive strain injury, things like that. Things that are going to make your job in the long run so much easier. It's not to say that I will ever replace my manual tools. I love my manual tools still. There's always a place for them. But having that combi, I think, is amazing.
The number one thing nail tech should really, really be conscious of when considering moving into the e-file arena is don't be scared. And first and foremost, make sure your education and your qualifications are tip-top. Don't compromise on your education. Don't compromise on the equipment you use. These are put in place to help you succeed. So they are really, really worth taking the time to find the right e-file for you, the right trainer for you. And that's not to say HONA. That could be absolutely any of the ones we spoke about at the beginning. But it's absolutely essential that nail techs embrace this innovation. They embrace the future. And they take it on board without fear.
Absolutely, 100%.
Nice little episode there.
Love myself an e-file and my manual tools.
Yeah, there you go. Charlotte's a combi all the way.
Yeah,
so guys, thank you for joining. I can't remember what episode this was. Charlotte is extremely pregnant. We've probably got 2 or 3 episodes left in us before she pops, and then we'll have to figure something out. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining. Please, it means the absolute world if you share this. It means even more if you comment, and it means the most if you like and subscribe. So thank you. Peace and love, everyone.